Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Hyams here, Bob Stewart over there. Bob, how are we doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good, Chad. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Bob, because we are recording this one of my favorite times of the year. And I'll tell you why. You don't even have to ask because I'm going to throw it out there anyway because I don't care. Nita and I are huge cyclist fans. We love watching the cycle racing, road racing specifically. Most people would know the Tour de France. Yet the Tour de France is just one of the races. Now,
I thought it was called the Tour de France. It's France?
Americans call it the Tour de France, right? Okay. That's going to depend on your accent where you're from. The Tour de France, it's like the Super Bowl of cycle racing. Yet here's the thing. There's two other grand tours, which is what they're called. Right now, we are experiencing the Giro d'Italia, which is the Tour of Italy. And in August, September, we will get the Vuelta de España, which is the Tour of Spain. So there's actually 3 Tour de France's in the different countries. Nobody knows about the other ones.
I thought the Tour of Italy is where you went around, like that's at like the Olive Garden, and they give you all the different kinds of pasta and all the different sauces.
Yes.
But you're saying it's not. It's actually a bike race?
That is correct at the Olive Garden. It is also one of the 3 grand tours in cycle racing. And if you are a fan, audience, you know it. You've looked into it. If you are like tip of the iceberg fan of cycle racing, you know the Tour de France. You don't know the other ones. And if you are really into it, you know that from March all the way through October, there are races, multiple races.
I'm tip of the iceberg. Look, I will actually stop and watch the Tour de France. Like if it's a lazy Saturday and it's on or something, I'll watch for a little while. Like those guys are insane athletes. I know that much.
And we're not going to get into how insane some of these athletes are. Yet I was watching it, Bob, on stage 2, which occurred the Saturday just recently. The race started in Bulgaria this year. Not that that really matters. Yet they were riding in the rain. Okay, they ride in almost every condition. It's got to be real bad weather for them to shorten a day or something like that. They were riding in the rain, and the team that Nita and I have always cheered for is the UAE team, and they were not favorites in the race. Yet they had a really strong opportunity to be second, and if something went just right, maybe win. And in a cycle race like this, Bob, just to give you a quick lesson, you get 8 people on your team. Okay, so it's not just one guy out there riding his bike. There's 8 of them in a team working together. If you turn on the Tour de France, you'll see at one point it looks like 100 of them are all like in this little tight called the peloton where they're really, really close to each other and you're scared for them and all of that. Our team was coming down a curve with all the other cyclists in the rain. One of the guys' back tires slipped and he took out about 20 people behind him.
Ooh.
And it was not pretty.
I'm not going to lie. That's actually why I stop and watch the Tour de France. This is what I'm hoping for. Like that's a horrible, horrible thing to say, but okay.
The big bike crashes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, come on, dude. Like that's one of those you can't look away type of things. You're like,
this was one of those. One guy went over the guardrail. One guy slid right into the post of the guardrail. One guy flew over the other guy. I mean, when people got up and were moving on, one guy from another team rode off, Bob. He basically no longer had an ass on his pants. Like his ass was just hanging out because he had slid on the road.
Oh, man.
Yes, it's horrible. Yet here's the thing. 2 of our really strong riders were the ones most seriously hurt. Like they were ambulanced away from the road. Our leader of the team in this race, he was really hurt. And it took him quite a while to get back on the bike. And at the end of the day, they actually said, no, that's it. You failed concussion tests. Once we got you back to the hotel, you're done. And we lost our 3 top riders in that one crash on stage 2. It's a 21 stage race.
Oh.
And on stage 2, our team's hopes were down.
Just real quick, because I'm total idiot. Like each day is a stage, so they're racing for 21 days.
Yes, they race for 21 days. They get Mondays off. That's how it usually works. They race for 21 days. Some days are flat and long. Some days are really hilly and climby. Some days are, all different things. So you mix it up. Yet our team, plan A, shot on day 2. We were no longer in the running to win this whole thing. No longer even in the running to probably put up a good finish because we had lost so many of our riders from our team. And stage 4 happened yesterday. That was Tuesday. Stage 4 happened Tuesday. We won the stage.
What? They lost their top 3 guys?
The number 1 guy was from our team on yesterday's stage, not necessarily one of our top 3 guys, yet he won the stage. And another one of our riders almost won the stage. He went a little too soon without getting into the technicals of it and ended up setting up our other member who won. And Bob, I was sitting there watching this going, that's the topic, right? What happens when everything crashes and plan A is destroyed, and so much so that plan B is even destroyed, that you have to shift completely into what became plan C in our situation here and then still be able to go out and win. And that's what I really want to cover today, Bob, because there's got to be a time you can think of in your business, your life, your relationship, where there was a crash. There was that ugly bike crash. Yet after going through a few things, you were able to then find plan C and actually still achieve a win. Can you think of one?
Yeah, I can think of one. The one that immediately comes, we had one of our companies at one point had a massive offer. Like we were, counting our chickens before they hatched. I had all the money spent. And I think it was 2 days before the closing, the whole thing fell apart. And then we had to quickly figure out how we're going to keep this company afloat now. So there was a plan, it was headed towards execution, it blew up, and we had to quickly figure out how are we going to pay our rent, both personally and professionally. It was, yeah, definitely.
Okay, and we've all been through it, whether it's a deal itself, whether it's a huge company opportunity, that we have the crash. And I wanted to share, number 1, Bob, you got to have a grieve and adjust moment. Okay. When the team had the crash, they all got on the team bus. 2 guys, as I said, were in the ambulance on their way to a hospital. There was grieving. That's it. Things went to shit. What are we going to do? Let's figure, okay. And then we make the adjustments and say, okay, we have to change because plan A is gone, and hell, plan B even is gone that we had coming in. We've got to invent a plan C and figure it out. Folks, don't grieve on this for more than 24 hours. John Maxwell says it really well. At midnight, the day ends. You stop celebrating or you stop grieving. New day is upon you. Start anew. Okay? Because, Bob, resilient companies, they're 2.5 times more likely to recover from a crisis.
I think that one, I'm, I can look back all these years later and feel fortunate for the lessons learned in it. But that was very early in my professional career, an opportunity to realize, shit keeps, tomorrow the shit's happening still. There was this big ass wreck that we had yesterday, but the next leg started tomorrow. And so, I don't wish that kind of up and down on anybody. It was, emotionally taxing, but the reality was the next day there was bills to be paid still, and there was a business to run, and there was, is it a different plan than yesterday? Right. But there was still, something to be done that next day. I don't even know if we had 24 hours, honestly. This was 12 hours probably. You learn at 3:00 and it's okay, next day, 9 a.m.
So Bob, talk about that for a little bit. What can we do? What do you think? And I'm putting you right on the spot with this, to shorten that kind of emotional lag time that comes between the disaster and plan C in this case. How do we go quickly to
Most of
get
these
on
things
with
don't happen. Most of these things don't like. It's very rare that this happens in a vacuum where you're the only person impacted by whatever the accident was, the crash, which was the case for us. Like we had a team. It was a small team. I think there was 4 of us at the time. So the very first thing that we did was like we grieved jointly as a group. Like I'm assuming that after that bike crash, the 5 remaining guys and the alternates that I think would probably end up filling in, they didn't all just no alternates. Okay,
No
the
alternates.
5 remaining guys didn't just head home to their separate corners and be left to kind of figure this, like what am I going to do now, right? Like they were doing this as a team, is my guess, and that's the way we approached it. Very. I don't. By the way, I don't know what the rest of this. Like you put the outline together.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm going to start stepping on things. But for us, it was, like immediate. Like okay, everybody get to the office. This is what happened. Like, so it was bring everybody together. It was quickly assess: is there anything to be done with what happened? And for us, that was it. It was like nope. There's nothing. There's nothing to pick up here. There's nothing we could do to change that. And then very quickly it was like, okay, what's the next step? Like we at that point, we very much went into like 1-day survival mode. I don't know if that's the right way to go, but for us it was like, okay, what can we do right now today to like essentially go find revenue, because we had this big deal and it fell apart and that was going to fund the company for the next however long. And so it was all right, like immediate pivot into what are the revenue ideas, opportunities, potential. And we just rallied around that one thing.
I think that's great, Bob. And right, it's as a group grieve together so that then as a group you can find that one thing and say, this is the thing we're going to, stick our flag in and say, let's go make this happen to find that win. All right. Number 2, the role shift. So in cycle racing, usually you have your team leader and everyone else is called a domestique. Okay. And that's the guy who you'll see he hands his water bottle to the leader. They cycle around him to keep him safe from the crashes, things like that. So what happened in stage 4, one of our young riders, he launched a very late attack, 2 kilometers left to the finish. He launched an attack and started having everybody had to chase him, right? Because it was too close to the finish to let him go. And what happened was another one of our team members was able to then save energy and just draft behind everybody chasing our one guy. When our young guy punked out and ran out of energy and everybody kept going past him toward our guy was then in prime position filled with energy. So now a leader became a domestique. A domestique stepped up to become a leader. Bob, when the leader is out or when something massive changes, job descriptions have to change immediately. And you might not have been somebody who was in marketing in that job, but you got to step in and say, whoa, we need to get more clientele. We got to step up the marketing, or we got to become, whatever that I got to pick up the phone and make calls because this is what happened, even though that's not normally my job. Bob, in a situation like that, did you see in the example you're giving us, people step into other roles and take on new job descriptions to survive the change in the new plan that had to be formed?
Yeah, 100%. I think our lead developer was out selling at that point. Like, yes. A little bit was just a function of like the day before, like our kind of main founder was engaged in that deal. Immediately his job changed the next day, right? Like that deal is dead and gone and blown up. I mean, essentially all of our job changed into go find revenue.
Yeah.
But so, right? And it was active and it was necessary. And, nobody, look, I don't know. A lot of times, like the thing you're talking, this is like crisis mode, right? And so like generally if you have people that are committed to whatever the mission was. Like we had the employees, we were committed to keeping this company alive. The four of us were just willing to do everything and anything, like whatever needed to be done. And so I don't know that we could have asked that of everybody necessarily, Chad. I'm not sure that everybody would, but the people brought in to like assess and move past this wreck were willing to do any job.
That's right. And that's how it has to be. Folks, bad companies are destroyed by crisis. Good companies survive them. Great companies are improved by them. There's a quote by Andy Grove that I found when I was looking into this. We want to make sure that everybody knows that every role becomes available. We don't know who's going to take on what. Okay, Bob, number 3 on the list of things to do. We have to remember that we have to have, and I'm not a huge fan of this term, that's grit, right? I talk about that in my TED talk, that grit is not always the answer. Yet grit is needed, okay? So when plan A crashes, we have to change and say, okay, that's done, yet we can grab on to B or C or even option D, depending what they are, by taking tasks, making them small, manageable things that we can win, and just focus on what's the next step so that we can get the ball rolling in our direction just that one more time. So tell me a little bit, Bob, about the small tasks maybe that came from this example or any other situation that's running through your mind as we're talking about this to give you the wins.
I feel like maybe if people pay close enough attention, they might start to wonder, like, I had not seen this previous to this. So I already mentioned, like, yep. we broke it down to one thing. We were like, we got to find revenue. Yep. And, it took a few different like ways, paths that we were going to attempt to do this, but it was very much like, okay, what's like one thing today? And literally that next day, all four of us, we kind of masterminded between the four of us, like what was one revenue opportunity that each one of us could go and tackle immediately. I mean, as I look at this, like, I think there's a really, you had written something on here, Chad, that says, like, when that big plan crashes, we're not necessarily like looking to immediately replace it with another plan that's right, capable of getting the same kind of outcome, right? Like in your crash scenario, they weren't looking to now think they could go on and win the entire tour to Italy or whatever, right? They're like trying to make something manageable. Maybe we can go out and win a stage, like the next stage potentially. And they do end up winning stage 4 after crashing in stage 2, right? So for us, it was very much like we weren't sitting in that room going, okay, how do we get another deal on the table for $33 million that's going to, be the big grand slam? Like, we were just like, how do we got to get any kind of a win around here? It was very, and then, I think had we been sitting around thinking, well, who else is going to buy this? How do we, like, I don't even know that we would have started again. Like, it just felt so insurmountable at that point to ever get back to a place where we would have that opportunity. And we were young and dumb. We're probably young and dumb enough that we just were like, we don't know what to do. Like, we're just going to do the next thing, right? Like, we're going to try to go out and find money because that's, seems like
and that's the thing, right? Okay, so you didn't get the 33 million, but can you go find the next 3,300, right? And little things along the way. Bob, we have a lot of people who are in the real estate industry as our audience. I don't know how many times I'm hearing from someone telling me about they lost a deal.
That's real common right now. Yeah,
right. I lost a deal.
My under contract blew up.
My question always is, did you lose the client though? Right? Just because the deal blew up, the transaction, whatever you want to call it, just because that blew up, did you lose the client that wanted to get their home sold? Did you lose the client you were working with that wanted to buy that house? Or did that deal just blow up? Well, okay, figure out what went wrong and then figure out, okay, what's the one thing? We need to get it back on the market. That's a win again. We need to do an open house for it. I need to go show you some more homes. I need to go do something else small step to move forward, it's not the end of the world.
Chad, I remember I've heard him tell a story about like 2007, 8, 9, the financial crisis. And he's got like his deals, like literally he went from, 40 deals under contract or whatever to like the next month, like 38 of them had fallen out. And and I remember him saying like every time one would fall out, he's like, I would spend the rest of the day trying to find another appointment to replace it. He's like, I couldn't keep up. They were falling out fast, but he's like in my head, the only thing I knew to do was to just go get back on the phone and try to find somebody else to replace that thing. So he just, his small action in that case was his stack of pennies and moving them across the table because he knew it took him, 18 people before he'd find that next appointment. And he just went back to work, essentially.
There you go. And again, you don't always lose you might lose the transaction. You don't always lose the deal in the long term. It might just be get it back on the market. Okay, Bob, the next thing you have to do is you have to have that audit of what happened. And it needs to become a no fault post mortem, right? This isn't it's a your fault. No, it was a your fault that this happened. This is you have to figure out what happened, not whose fault is behind what happened, because then, of course, now we're going to get infighting. Now we're going to get people who don't want to work on it, don't want to solve the problem. We have to have a no fault post mortem. And Bob, there's two key differences, and I want you to talk about this. Again, I'm putting you on the spot for some fun on my end here. There's a system failure, which means you just had a crappy plan. And then there's an execution failure, right? Which is we just didn't follow the plan. Like when the Seahawks lost the Super Bowl, that was just a bad plan to throw the ball on the 1 yard line when you have Marshawn Lynch. Okay. Now, some people would argue and say, well, it was a good trick plan. We just had an execution failure. The team just didn't follow it. But talk the difference between a system failure and an execution failure.
Man, I feel like I want to go away from this example.
You can go to a different example. You don't have to keep the same story going, Bob.
Yeah, no, like if we go to Ben's deal, right? Like clearly it was like an execution fit. Like listen, the team didn't follow the plan, and I wouldn't even say the team. It's like sometimes just the circumstances don't follow the plan.
Yes.
Right. The plan itself, like in Ben's case, the plan itself, which is we try to find people that are interested in buying or selling, and we help them make an awesome decision when they do that. That's the plan, right? The execution of it is we go out, we help them find a house, we get them under contract. There's, just during that time, what was happening is financing was falling apart. People could no longer get loans that a month ago could. Prices were starting to take. Like there was all these kind of structural things, but they weren't, the system itself was good. The concept of like find somebody to help, get them to agree to meet with us, go out, find them a property or help them sell their, like the system itself was okay. It was just, the market was dictating that the execution on these things were flawed, which is why Ben just went immediately back to the system. He was like, well, that execution failed. Let me go back and execute that thing again. And, and over time, obviously starts to get different results as the market normalizes and people can get mortgages again. And I think like, as you're looking back at these things, it's important to know which one was it.
Yes, always. When you're doing that post-mortem, folks, is it a system failure? You had a bad plan. Like there was no way that plan was going to survive. Or was it an execution failure, which is we didn't follow the plan. The plan would have worked.
Like I coach a bunch of real estate teams, Chad. Most of the time, I will tell you, it tends to be an execution failure. It's why we do all the tracking and we've got these sales funnels and we want to understand like, am I doing all the things that the plan called for? And if I'm not tracking that, how do I know? Like the plan said to make 10 calls a day. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I make 10 a day. It seems like I do. Like I'm on the phone for a half hour each day. But, it's very rarely the plan was bad.
That's a great point, Bob, bringing that in. All right. Number 5 on our list of things. The leader needs to be there. and we need to hear from the leader, right? So immediately, you don't have to know what to say, yet there needs to be some calm person giving instruction, right? Everyone's going to stop and listen and understand what's going on. You don't know what's going to happen in your organization as the crash occurs, yet you might be able to figure out what we can do to win immediately and be that leading voice who steps up. Okay. Explain to the team what's happening. Don't keep things. We hear this all the time. Good leaders share the vision, right? If the leader is the only one who knows it, and we just did a whole session on this, Bob, not too long ago, or episode on this. If the leader is the only one who knows the vision, it's not a true vision for the company. It has to be something that is shared with everybody so they understand that there is a strategy to what's going on and the decisions being made, not that it's just some panic or willy-nilly stuff going on behind the scenes.
So I'll take you out of the room. So after we essentially like a $30+ million deal crashes and burns at our feet, there's 4 of us in the room kind of figuring out what we're going to do, but there's, I don't know how many people there would have been, 40 maybe or something. I don't know how many employees we had at that point, but we do have to then exit that room and like convey the message of what just happened, where we sit today, and what we believe are like the next couple of days that we need to go knock down. And like at this point in that business, it was days. For the next probably 6 months, it was days apart away from being bankrupt, essentially, right? But we enlisted everybody at the company in that mission. And I like credit to Jonathan. He's always a pretty even-keeled guy. And like he was able to deliver the message, let them know, like, here's where we sit. Here's what had happened. Here's where we were headed. That's not the case anymore. And here's where we sit. And here's what, each of us is intending to go tackle. And then the next piece of that was enlisting them in going to do that thing, right? And again, I'm not looking at your thing here, so I don't know if like enlisting the rest of them is the next step, and I'm stepping ahead of us, but and that's kind of how we handled it. We came out with a plan. It really wasn't more than like, this is what we're going to do today and tomorrow, but we needed to enlist people, because what ended up coming out of that, and maybe ultimately like the thing that would save and turn around the company, I think the idea actually came from somebody that wasn't one of us 4. It was the fact we'd enlisted the rest of the people to kind of ultimately come up with an idea that would like massively extend the runway of the company.
That's smart leadership there, right? All right, so folks, crashes happen. Let's recap before I bring you the last one. 1, take the 24-hour grieve and adjust, right? It's okay. You need to deal with the emotions. Bob said, right? Get together with the group, because very rarely is it just one person on their own going through this if you have a crash in your situation. Number 2, new roles. We might need to take on a new role. Someone might need to temporarily step into a role. If it's literally a crash, right? Somebody's going to step into that role of that rider. If it's a crash in your business, maybe everybody needs to become salespeople for a day, or everybody needs to become whatever it might be. Number 3, it's have some grit. Okay. Push yourself to a win just to start the ball rolling again in the right direction. Give yourself an audit, doing a no-fault post-mortem. The next one on the list we had was leading that change. A voice needs to come through this. We need a captain to step up if we don't have, obviously, a clear leader. Maybe the leader went down, which is why we need somebody new to step in. And Bob, the last one, avoid the sunk cost trap. And I'm going to explain that with a quote by Will Rogers. He had so many brilliant quotes. His quote here is, when you find yourself in a hole, the first thing to do is stop digging, right? When the crash happened, the race director for our team said to everybody else on the team, go, right? Don't stand here and wait and see what happened and hope that our guy gets back into it. Go so that you can stay near the front of the race. We'll deal with what's happening back here. Bob, sometimes plan A crashes and everybody attempts to revive a dead, crashed, broken plan so much, they just keep digging the hole deeper and deeper and deeper. And step one is we have to stop digging.
I think one of my favorite quotes ever in the history of ever is the Mike Tyson quote that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. It's just one. I feel like so many times in business, I've walked in and there's been a plan, and then something just punches you in the mouth. And that was your cycling, your UAE cycling team. They had a plan coming out there, man. And then a little bit of rain, one slippery tire, and all of a sudden, 3 dudes are punched in the mouth, and they figured it out, right?
Yeah, they find another plan. Folks, we know you will get punched in the mouth. Hopefully not literally. Somebody might punch me in the mouth the next time they see me for something I've said. That's why I hide behind this microphone. Apparently, I owe Bob an apology from the last episode that he might punch me in the mouth. Who knows? Folks, the key is when you get punched in the mouth, stop getting punched. Change the plan. Don't stand in there taking more hits. You're not Rocky. This isn't a movie. Go move forward immediately. Folks, until our next episode, as always, do good,